What if I told you that some of your favorite childhood cartoons were designed to teach you racism? That Mickey Mouse, Bugs Bunny, and Tom and Jerry weren't just innocent entertainment. They were tools of racial propaganda. Most of us grew up watching classic animation without questioning what we were really seeing. We laughed at the jokes, hummed along to the songs, and never realized we were being fed a steady diet of racist stereotypes that shaped how we see race in America. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on one of the most uncomfortable truths in entertainment history: how the animation industry was built on a foundation of racism, and why those cartoons you loved as a kid weren't as innocent as you thought. This isn't about cancel culture or ruining your childhood memories. This is about understanding how racism gets normalized, how it gets passed down through generations, and why recognizing this history matters for creating a better future. Fair warning, what you're about to learn might change how you see some beloved classics. But sometimes the most important conversations are the uncomfortable ones. So let's dive in.
Roll up. Some low ladies come down. Hold up. Hold up.
To understand how racism became embedded in animation, we need to go back to where it all began. The golden age of animation didn't emerge in a vacuum. It was born directly from the blackface minstrel show tradition of the 1800s. When The Jazz Singer hit theaters in 1927, it wasn't just the first major talking picture. It featured Al Jolson in blackface, normalizing racist imagery for mainstream audiences. This same year, animators were experimenting with synchronized sound, and guess what they used as inspiration? The exact same minstrel show, Stereotypes. Early animation pioneers like Walt Disney, Hugh Harman, and Rudolph Ising weren't creating in an artistic bubble. They were products of their time, a time when blackface entertainment was considered family-friendly fun. These men had grown up watching minstrel shows, and when they sat down to create the first animated characters, they unconsciously, and sometimes very consciously, drew from this racist well. The result? Animation became a vehicle for spreading the same dehumanizing stereotypes that minstrel shows had been peddling for decades, but now with the added power of mass media and the illusion of innocent entertainment.
Boy, when I get a hold of that low-down good for nothing. Hey, you, has you seen a no-good cat around here? No, ma'am. I ain't seen no cat around here. There ain't no cat, no place, no house, no, ma'am.
Let's talk about what these stereotypes actually looked like, because understanding the specifics is crucial to recognizing their lasting impact. The lazy Negro was perhaps the most common trope. Black characters portrayed as shiftless, slow-moving, and avoiding work at all costs. Think of the characters in Disney's early Silly Symphonies or the background characters in Tom and Jerry cartoons. These weren't accidents. They were deliberate choices that reinforced the myth that black people were naturally lazy. Then there were the physical exaggerations: oversized lips painted bright red, bulging white eyes, and exaggerated movements that mimicked blackface performers. Characters like the crows in Disney's Dumbo or the centaurs in Fantasia weren't just caricatures. They were visual arguments for black inferiority. But perhaps most insidious was the romanticization of plantation life. Cartoons regularly featured happy slaves singing and dancing, suggesting that slavery was a joyful time for black people. Disney's Song of the South is the most famous example, but it wasn't alone. These images taught generations of children that slavery wasn't that bad, that black people actually enjoyed their oppression. And let's be crystal clear about blackface in animation. While live-action blackface was becoming less acceptable by the 1940s, animated blackface continued well into the 1960s. Characters would literally transform into racist caricatures for comedic effect, and audiences laughed along, not recognizing the deep harm these images were causing. The normalization was complete. Children were learning to see black people as less than human, and they were learning it from Mickey Mouse.
Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer too. I'm half crazy, all for the love of you. It won't be a...
The success of early racist cartoons created a template that studios followed religiously. Executives saw that audiences laughed at these stereotypes, so they doubled down. This created a vicious cycle. Racist cartoons made money, so more racist cartoons were made which normalized racism further, which made even more racist content profitable. This had devastating long-term effects on character design and storytelling. For decades, animation studios had essentially no black employees, which meant there was no one in the room to say, maybe this is harmful. The few black voices that tried to speak up were dismissed or ignored entirely. The impact on storytelling was equally damaging. When your default assumption is that black characters exist only for comic relief or as villains, you don't develop complex black characters. You don't tell black stories. You don't even consider black audiences worth targeting. This created what scholars call symbolic annihilation, the systematic exclusion of black people from media representation, except in the most degrading forms. Children growing up with these cartoons learned that black people weren't heroes, weren't intelligent, weren't worthy of respect or empathy. And here's the kicker. This wasn't just affecting how white children saw black people. Black children were internalizing these messages too, learning to see their own race through the lens of white supremacist stereotypes. The psychological damage was immense and generational.
One little, two little, three little engines. 4 little, 5 little, 6 little engines. Uh-oh, sorry, that one was a half-breed. 7 little, 8 little, 9 little engines. 10 little engine boy.
So where does that leave us today? The good news is that the animation industry is finally starting to reckon with its racist past, though the process has been slow and often incomplete. Starting in the 1990s, we began seeing more conscious efforts at representation. Shows like Fat Albert and later The Proud Family created positive black characters and told authentic black stories. But it wasn't until the 2010s that we really saw systematic change. Modern creators like Rebecca Sugar with Steven Universe, Pendleton Ward with Adventure Time, and more recently, shows like Craig of the Creek and The Owl House are actively working to undo decades of damage. They're creating diverse casts, hiring diverse writers and animators, and most importantly, they're telling stories that affirm the humanity and complexity of all people. Disney has finally started acknowledging its past, adding content warnings to some of its most problematic classics and removing Song of the South from circulation entirely. But critics argue this isn't enough, that true accountability requires more than just warnings. The biggest change has been in the animation workforce itself. Organizations like Color of Change and advocacy groups have pressured studios to hire more diverse talent, and it's working. For the first time in animation history, we have black showrunners, black directors, and black writers creating content that represents their communities authentically. Here's the truth. Racism in animation wasn't accidental. It was a deliberate system designed to dehumanize black people and reinforce white supremacy. These cartoons didn't just reflect racism, they created it, shaping how millions understood race for nearly a century. The damage was real and generational. But recognizing this history is the first step toward healing it. The animation industry is finally changing because people are demanding better and holding creators accountable. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Have you noticed these stereotypes in cartoons you watched? Your stories matter and help make these videos better. If you want more hidden Black history content, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. We're building a community that's not afraid of uncomfortable truths